Why do you think Donald Trump gets the support that he gets? He's not a politician. Now, he's the deal maker, which is half of politics, but you don't, has been tainted by and become part of that machine, which is America's political nightmare. So I'm not playing by those games. And like I said, I stood up at the debate after I participated and trashed the debate and apologized personally to Penn Jillette afterwards, because I know he put lots of money, time, and effort into that debate in Las Vegas.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, we're trying to see a contrast and a comparison of ideas, and it's an imperfect form. One of the problems with it is that it's not a true debate. And that's why you have these sound bites that are put out there, because the format that we use is not like you would see in a college debate format where somebody's got a premise and you have a back and forth and they are able to engage each other. Instead, they're asked these questions by moderators who have their own agenda, and they don't really follow the issues. So I'd like to ask you about some specific issues, if you'd like to talk about that.
I'm ready. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, let's talk about, we'll get to the security issue, but let's talk first about something I haven't heard anybody really talk about much. That's mandatory vaccines. It seems like that'd be something that the Libertarian Party would be talking about. What's your position on that, as well as things like mandated government health insurance, Obamacare?
Okay, I believe, and all libertarians, and not just libertarians, I think all people have some sense that their bodies and their minds belong to themselves. I do. I was born with it. I think all kids have it. You may disagree, but if they don't belong to me, maybe they belong to my mom and dad. But they certainly don't belong to a neighbor or you, or certainly not to a government. So when you tell me that you're going to stick a needle into a body that I own and vaccinate me for my own good, I'm going to say F you and get the F off of my property. Why? Because look at the realities. If the vaccines do, in fact, work, then why are people upset if a few people choose not to take them?
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to get sick and die. They're going to get sick and die, but it's not going to affect you. And if they don't work, then it was an improper move to force everyone to be vaccinated. This is a non-issue, sir. It's a non-issue if we look at it realistically.
Good. That's a great answer. Let me ask you about mandated health insurance, for example, Obamacare. I'm assuming that you would say the government should not be able to force us to purchase something like that. What would you do with the health system in order to appease the things that people think that they're going to get out of the quote-unquote Affordable Health Care Act?
Well, that's odd that you asked that. 2 years ago, I was on Neil Cavuto's Fox News, and he asked me about Obamacare, and I said, well, number one, the website is a hacker's wet dream. And he said, I don't believe you said that, but I did. What right does government have to mandate anything? Did we elect this government to be our mother and father or our boss? I certainly didn't. Maybe you did. When our Constitution was formed, the government was a service organization. George Washington was pushed kicking and screaming into the job. Who wants the job of serving 3 million people?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the problem, is they tried to manage this, and there isn't anybody that is capable of managing the lives of hundreds of millions of people. There's not any bureaucracy that's capable of doing that as well.
No, we are living under a delusion.
Yes.
They tell us the police are here to protect us. Well, I ask you, someone breaks into your head, where is the magic button that you put?
Yeah, exactly.
It's between you. No,
it's the magic button that opens up my gun safe. That's what I did.
That's it. That's the thing. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, you mentioned guns. Good Lord, we are libertarians. I have not met a single libertarian that does not believe we have the right to own and bear arms. And Gary Johnson picks a man who doesn't want anyone under 21 having a gun, who doesn't believe that firearms are necessary unless they're used for hunting. Yes. Holy heck.
Yes. Well, I think the important thing that you and I are missing there, John, is that he picked somebody who was a two-term governor. That was far more important than what he believed about the Second Amendment, apparently.
Well, here's the thing. Being a two-term governor is a negative this year. Please don't understand this.
Especially if it's Massachusetts.
We are sick of politicians.
Yeah.
And governors and mayors and anybody tainted and polished by the political process. So it's insane.
As a matter of fact, when Reason Magazine looked at Gary Weldon and or William Weld and talked about his tenure as governor, they said, yeah, the Libertarian Party likes to talk about how they're fiscally conservative, socially liberal. Well, he's socially liberal in a Michael Bloomberg kind of way.
Yes.
And that's precisely it. Yeah.
Scary. It's utterly scary. So here's what happened. The Libertarians have been around for a long time. This is Gary's second attempt to be nominated. What happens when you decide to take a slow, careful step into revolution? Because libertarianism is a revolutionary idea. We want to completely change the way our government functions. When you take these slow, careful steps, like Gary and the party has been doing, you end up with compromise. All change of a radical nature in all of human history that is attempted in a slow, step-by-step process has resulted in that movement being absorbed in the power there through compromise. We're seeing the convention has not even happened, and already we have someone who is absolutely not a libertarian running as vice president.
Exactly.
We can't do that.
I agree with you completely, and I think you really hit the nail on the head. What we're looking at here is a takeover by the establishment. It's not an advantage to have two-term governors from a Democrat state running for your party. Only the Washington insiders would believe that. Let's talk a little bit about the surveillance state. Is Snowden a hero or a traitor?
Good Lord, let's get real. If a man comes to you.
Did we lose you? Are you there? I just wanted to get that answer. We're talking to John McAfee. Did we lose him, guys? Is he still on the line, or are we getting a little bit sketchy with his phone? We just lost him. Okay, they're going to try to reestablish connection with John McAfee. But I want to ask him about this because, Alex alluded to this in his report about the church committee hearings, the Pike committee hearings. They knew back in the 70s that the government was illegally surveilling American citizens. That was one of the things that started the church committee hearings in the Senate, the Pike committee hearings in the House. The Pike Commission called the NSA chief in to talk to them, and they asked to see their charter. And he said, I'm not going to show it to you. We were created by executive order by President Truman, and I'm not even going to show you my charter. That's the arrogance of the NSA in the 1970s. It's only gotten worse. They decided that they would go through and they would try to establish a law to control this criminal, secret, dark government that had already created, metastasized after about 2 decades. So they created the FISA Act. That's the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. Part of that was going to be a court that would hear secret testimony if they wanted to spy on somebody and it was a matter of intelligence. They wanted to set up a due process case with that. So they created a court in order to hear that, in order to give the warrant. Now what has happened? We now have this organization, and I'm notified that John is back with us. We now have this organization that is acting as a star chamber, operating in secret, making these dragnet surveillance warrants that are going all over the entire country, as well as claiming that they're modifying the Constitution with their secret rulings. There's not even any opposition. Let's go back to John McAfee. We lost you as you were talking. I had asked you if John Snowden is a hero or a traitor.
Oh, Edward, okay, if someone knocks on your door and says, I have to tell you something, it's extremely important. I have discovered that your government, whose charter, a piece of your government, the NSA, whose charter is to collect evidence on foreign threats, is spying on you. Now, do you go, oh, you're a traitor? No, you go, thank you. For God's sake, how long has this been happening?
Yes.
We need to tell the world. So come on, please.
And so let me ask you, we got to go to break real quickly, John. Is Hillary Clinton a hero, a traitor, or presidential material? With her email stuff. Okay, that's a rhetorical question. We don't have to get an answer from John. We'll be right back with John McAfee. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we're talking to John McAfee, candidate for the Libertarian nomination. The nominating convention is going to be held in Orlando beginning tomorrow. They're going to choose who the presidential nominee will be. They'll be on the ballot probably in all 50 states. And whether John McAfee wins or loses a nomination, whether he wins or loses a presidency, I hope we do not lose his voice in this important issue about cybersecurity. This is a vital issue. This is a tool that the government is using to control us. Winston Churchill said, after he went to war with the Germans the second time, he said the Germans are either at your feet or at your throat. Well, you know what? It's more true of the government. The government is either at your feet or at your throat. And the tool with which they will control us, or we will control them, is the internet and technology. It's vital that we understand the implications of these technologies. It's vital that we have somebody who has a libertarian perspective telling us the truth about the real implications of this. And real quickly, before we go back to John, just want to remind you, we've got Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, 20% off. We've extended that sale. I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but again, that is our Nascent Iodine. A great time to stock up on that at InfoWarsLife.com. Also, we have Super Male Vitality back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com after being sold out for over a month. Check out the products there. That's how we support the operation. Now, let's go back to John McAfee. John, I want to ask you about the intelligence issues. I talked briefly while we lost contact with you about what's going on with the FISA. Everybody understands a little bit about this, but talk to us about what we're seeing happening. You got involved with the demands from the FBI for data from the iPhone of the San Bernardino shooters, but now we've learned that they are also already leaning on car manufacturers to turn over all this information. How do we control this politically?
Well, what has happened is the FBI, and not just the FBI, all of the government covert agencies and many of the police organizations are attempting to gain more control over access to our private information. The FBI wanted Apple to create a special master key that only the FBI would have, so that the FBI could open any phone. Well, I've been around in technology for 50 years. It was a software key. You can't keep that secret for more than 2 weeks. Everybody in the world would have it.
Yes. Yes.
So the government is overreaching in an unconstitutional, immoral, and certainly illegal way in attempting to control us. Because really, what is information? If you know everything about the populace, then you can control the populace. I mean, this is the philosopher's stone of every dictator. And this is what our government is trying to do. Well, I won't have that. So when I offered to hack the phone, I knew I could get a team together to do it. I was really pointing to the fact that I knew the FBI could do it themselves, which they did, as they said, with the help of a foreign hacker, which they paid $1.2 million, offered to do it for free.
Yes.
So we are, as a nation, ruled by a government that is so powerful and corrupt, it is out of control. And the FBI was just one representative sample of what was happening. So I stepped in and said, no, I'm not having this shit. Excuse me. I'm not having this.
Yes, absolutely. Knowledge is power. And if they have knowledge of everything that you do, they have complete power over you.
They have power.
We're out of time. I wish we had more time. Okay. John McAfee, if you want to find out more information about him, go to bealibertarian.com. Mr. McAfee, best of luck to you this weekend. Whatever happens, I hope we do not lose your voice in this important issue over privacy. And it is not only a legal and constitutional issue, it is a moral issue. People need to understand this, and they need to hear from someone like John McAfee who can call the bluff of these liars who are telling us we have to give up our liberty for security. Tonight, InfoWars Nightly News at 7 Central. We also have a Ask Me Anything session at 7.